and it's just like we all have our own personal thing and our personal reason as to why that thing is that way. But yeah, I feel like just whenever there's something I know I could either do better or just do in general, if I could only see. Yes, Lavender, it is very frustrating being blind sometimes. That's right. Hello and welcome back to another video. This is going to be a listicle video, and I haven't done one of these lists in a long time, though I have done a lot of list videos in the past, like all of these. Yeah, I don't know. I thought of this video relatively recently, and I just thought it was a good topic, so we're gonna get into it. As you see in the title, these are 10 things or 10 times or circumstances or whatever you want to say that make me feel disabled. Now, I did this video quite a few years ago where I cried a lot and talked about the fact that there's like always going to be these things that happen that like reminds me I'm disabled. And in that video, I mentioned that the reality is like I don't walk around thinking about the fact that I'm blind. I don't feel disabled when I'm like in my own home environment doing my makeup. You know, I don't feel disabled when I'm pouring myself a cup of tea because I accommodate my own disability and I've learned coping mechanisms or skills to do so. And so these are kind of 10 things that when they happen, I'm like, oh yeah, I am in fact disabled, that's right. And some of these things are things that like are on me that I do, but then other things are kind of more societal or things that people around me may do that remind me. So some of these things maybe you could learn from of like what not to do to a blind person or a disabled person that you meet or is in your life. So without further ado, let's just jump into it in no particular order. Number one, we're starting with something that is totally on me. This is something I do, my habit. When I am really tired or stressed, my eyes like will fixate on whatever the brightest light is, and I like physically just can't pull them away. Like my eyes are just like, they'll just like look at that light on the ceiling, look at the light behind you, look at the flickering flame of a candle, and that's it. My eyes are like glued to it. And as much as I try to pull my eyes away, they're like right back to that light because it gives my brain stimulation that I don't really get usually, right? I don't have a lot of visual stimulation like sighted people do. And so when my eyes are really tired and stressed, it's like my brain is just like, I need stimulation. And so it just forces me to look at the light, which is kind of annoying and like reminds me that like, yeah, I'm blind, because I know that that doesn't happen to sighted people. And I also know that like when my eyes and my mind are not in that stressed and overtired state, I don't do that. I have control over my eyes and I can look away from light. I can make a conscious effort to look in the direction of the person that's talking, but in those moments, I have no control and I can't do that. Number two, when I like miss a handshake, it's always so embarrassing. Like it's one of those things like I've learned, obviously pre-COVID times, that like whenever I'm meeting somebody new, I just automatically stick my hand out. But then I'll have this scenario where they're like holding something and they're like, oh my God, sorry, I'm holding this thing, which is like, I would have seen that they were holding a coffee in a briefcase if I could see, but I didn't. So I just stuck my hand out anyways. And then there's like an awkward exchange. So I'll have these other moments where I'm like, okay, Molly, just don't stick your hand out, don't bother. And then they're like, I'm sorry, I just wanna, and they like grab my hand, and it's like, it's just super awkward. So anytime that happens, I'm like, oh yeah. Number three, when people talk to my friend or my family member about me when I'm right there. This is something that happens like more often than you would think. People who like ask my mom what I want to order at the restaurant instead of asking me what I want to order. Or I've even had situations, like I remember one where I was talking to this girl for like 10 minutes and the fact that I was blind just hadn't come up yet. And then it did, so I said it. And she turns to our friend who was standing right there, like the mutual friend we had who introduced us. And despite the fact that I was still right there and had just been talking to her perfectly normally, she goes, what happened to her? And I was like, okay, I'm right here. So yeah, that's always one of those moments where I'm like, okay, wow, people like really see me differently than they see other people, and they treat me accordingly. Number 4, when I cannot find something that is right in front of me. Yes, this happens far more often than I would like to admit. There are so many times when I like know my phone was on my bed and I'm literally like crawling all over my bed, feeling around for it, and I just cannot find it. And then I'll like go ask somebody to help me, and they walk in and they're like, oh, it's right there. They just like, boom, look at the bed, they're like, right there, and they grab it. And I'm like, I swear to you, I crawled up and down the damn bed searching for it for 10 minutes, and you just found it like that. Or like my lipstick rolls off my vanity and I'm just crawling around looking for it, and then a sighted person walks in and they're like, boom, right there. Number 5. This one is incredibly frustrating. I have had numerous situations at different places where they will tell me that the only government ID they're allowed to take is a driver's license. And I'm like, well, I don't know what you want me to do then, because I can't drive. And this one's annoying because like not even, it's just blind people that can't drive. Like, hey, there's lots of people who like are born and raised in big cities with lots of public transit, so they just never get a driver's license. Or people who are afraid of driving because they've had some kind of trauma. Or people, like I have somebody I know with epilepsy and they can't drive. There's like many reasons, like certain medications people take cause you to not be able to drive. So it's really bizarre that some places have this policy. And I've even been told by some of them that aside from that, they could take my passport. And I'm like, yeah, I casually carry around my passport because I'd love to lose it. I don't know, so annoying. And again, just a reminder, like, oh yeah, wow, if I could see and had a driver's license, I would just, this whole conversation would have just never had to happen. But now I'm standing here arguing about the fact that I don't have a driver's license and still need to show you an ID. And I do have like a government issued ID, which is considered the legal equivalent of a driver's license, but they'll be like, no ma'am, sorry, that's not the same. And I'm like, no, it is the same. So yeah, that's a whole frustrating situation. Number 6, when people only want to talk about my disability, like that's it. They're just like asking questions about my guide dog, about being blind, how do I do X, Y, Z? And this will happen a lot at like, say, parties. Not that I'm partying for the last year of my life, but in like, again, regular times when I would like go to a party and be mingling and meeting new people, or before I was in a relationship and I would go on dates. It just would happen a lot where I would meet these people who would spend the whole night talking about my disability, and I would like try to talk about them or like veer off that topic and bring up new ones. But there are many times when I meet people who just like, that's all they really care about knowing about me. And it's like they find that to be the only interesting or valuable part about me. And like once I've been their nice little Google and answered all their questions, they're like done. You know, I'm not good for anything else anymore. And that's really degrading to feel like the only interesting thing about me is my disability, or the only use I am to you is to answer your questions about it. Number 7, kind of on a similar track, when people will only like address my dog and not me. That's just, number 1, something you shouldn't do. My guide dog is a working dog and has a purpose and should not be distracted. It's the whole reason you can't pet them, to not distract them. Talking to them is distracting. But this happened a lot, say in things like high school. I would walk down the hallway at school and people would be like, hey Gypsy, and then just like keep walking. And I'd be like, what about the girl who brought the dog to school? Hi, I'm here too. Number 8, when there's something I know I could do really easily or way better if I could just see. By the way, my cat is eating kibble, my dog is walking around, so welcome to the zoo. Yeah, so some of these things are things that is simply because it's not accessible, and that's really frustrating because it isn't my fault. It's not my fault that I can't do something because it's not accessible, and there's no way for me to accommodate myself and make it accessible. So that's like one way to look at this, and then the other way is just like things that are just like on me. Like there's it's not because it's not accessible, it's just because I can't see. So it's like I know that I could probably do my makeup way better if I could see. And like doing DIY crafts is something that like in my heart and my mind I know I would love to do and like enjoy, but there's so much of it that I just like don't do well at. In this video, my why I don't thrift video, I talked about the fact that I think like for a lot of disabled people, there are like the things that truly like remind us we're disabled. And like I mentioned in that video, thrifting and DIY crafting are two of those things for me. And it's just like we all have our own personal thing and our personal reason as to why that thing is that way. But yeah, I feel like just whenever there's something I know I could either do better or just do in general, if I could only see. Yes, Lavender, it is very frustrating being blind sometimes. That's right. Number 9 is not going to be a surprise to anybody because I've made emotional videos like this about it and how much it impacts me emotionally and mentally. And that is when I get denied access because of my guide dog. It's really frustrating, and it's just one of those moments where I'm just gonna try to go to the grocery store or grab a coffee or get into an Uber or Lyft, and like boom, I'm immediately reminded that I'm not able to do that everyday normal task normally because I'm disabled and I require my service dog. Number 10. There's two sides to this one, two sides of the coin. The first one is when I'm denied a job or an opportunity because I'm blind, and therefore people assume I cannot do something. So like somebody saying like, oh, I won't date you because you can't surf. Excuse me, sir? Like who told you I can't surf? Blind people can surf if they want to. Or when I was not given job opportunities because they literally told me like, oh, we don't feel that you will be able to do what is required of our staff. And I was like, you didn't even look at my resume to see my experience. You just were like, oh, you're blind. Nope. So like anytime that circumstance happens, and then on the flip side, anytime people diminish the hard work that I've put in to accomplish something by saying that I've only been successful at that thing because I'm blind. So what? I'm like, I don't get as many opportunities because I'm blind, and I also somehow get more opportunities because I'm blind? No, sorry. That's not how this works. It takes a lot of hard work to do the things that I've done, and I'm really proud of myself for the hard work that I put in. And if anything, being blind has made things far more difficult at times, but I've persevered throughout, and I am where I am today. And I don't think it's fair to say that the only reason I have been successful in certain things that I've done is simply because I'm disabled, because my disability has negatively impacted many parts of my life that I have had to continue to overcome. So boom, that is that. Those are 10 things that make me personally feel disabled. Now, this is all from my perspective and my life experience and circumstances. This is not true for all disabled people or for all blind people. This is just me, Molly, my channel, my situation, my stuff. So if you are also disabled or blind, comment down below with some things that trigger you in your life or bring up those feelings for you. And if you haven't yet already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you find out every time I upload new content. Thanks so much for sticking with me, and if you want more Molly, you can click up here to learn more about the social model of disability versus the medical model of disability, and over here to, I don't know, watch another video. Bye.